It started with a signal. Not a message, not a voice, just a strange pattern coming from deep space. At first, no one paid attention. Space was always full of noise. Scientists believed it was just another random wave, something natural, something meaningless. But then it came again. The exact same pattern. And again. This time, people noticed. The signal was too perfect. Too clean. It had a rhythm that did not belong to nature. Machines confirmed it. Experts checked it again and again. There was no mistake. This signal was artificial. Someone, or something, had sent it. At first, the world reacted with excitement. News channels talked about first contact. Social media exploded with theories. People imagined friendly aliens, new technology, and a new future. But the scientists were not smiling. They saw something others did not. The signal was not changing. It was not responding. It was repeating. Like a loop. Like a system running the same command again and again. That was not how communication worked. That was how machines worked. Within hours, governments around the world got involved. The signal was classified. Military systems started tracking it. The source was far, very far, but it was clear. It was coming closer. Day by day, the signal grew stronger. And faster. As if the source was moving toward Earth. Still, nothing appeared in the sky. No ships. No lights. Only that signal. Constant. Cold. Unchanging. On the third day, something strange happened. A group of scientists noticed hidden layers inside the signal. It was not just one pattern. It was many patterns combined into one. When they separated it, they found something shocking. Coordinates. Precise locations. Around Earth. Satellites. Communication networks. Defense systems. The signal was not a greeting. It was mapping. Before anyone could fully understand it, everything went dark. Satellites shut down at the same time. Thousands of them. Gone. No warning. No explosion. Just silence. Planes lost navigation. Ships stopped receiving signals. Cities began to panic. The world lost its eyes in space. Emergency systems failed to explain it. There was no solar storm. No cyber attack. No human cause. Only one thing matched the timing. The signal. Fear started to spread. People looked at the sky, waiting for something to appear. But still, nothing came. Hours passed. The signal continued. Stronger than ever. Then, suddenly, it changed. For the first time, it broke its pattern. It slowed down. Then it formed a single, long pulse. A pulse so powerful that every system on Earth detected it at the same moment. Scientists froze as they studied it. Because now they understood. This was not communication. This was a process. A system completing its task. And then, the sky changed. Far above Earth, something appeared. A dark shape. Massive. Silent. It did not move. It did not shine. It simply existed. Then another one appeared. And another. Within minutes, dozens of them filled the sky. People watched in silence. No one spoke. No one understood. The objects did nothing. They just hovered there. Watching. Scanning. Waiting. Humanity tried to respond. Signals were sent. Messages were broadcast. Military channels opened communication lines. There was no reply. Not a single one. Because they were not listening. They had already finished what they came to do. The signal stopped. Completely. And in that silence, one final realization spread across the world. Those ships were never searching. They were never exploring. They were never trying to talk. They had already chosen their target. And now, they were ready. The ships did not fire. That was the first thing everyone noticed. They just stayed there, high above Earth, silent and still. No beams. No explosions. No clear attack. And somehow, that made it worse. Because no one understood what they were waiting for. Across the world, military forces moved quickly. Jets were launched. Missiles were prepared. Defense systems were activated. Humanity was ready to fight. But the enemy did nothing. The dark ships remained in position, like shadows watching from above. Then, without warning, something changed. Every screen on Earth flickered. Phones, computers, televisions, all of them turned on at the same time. A single image appeared. Not a face. Not a creature. Just a symbol. Strange. Sharp. Unfamiliar. It stayed there for 10 seconds. Then everything shut off again. Panic spread instantly. This was not random. This was control. They could reach every system. Every device. Every part of human technology. And they did it without effort. Military leaders made a decision. Attack first. A wave of missiles was launched toward the ships. Hundreds of them, fast and powerful. The sky lit up as humanity made its first move. For a moment, it looked like hope. Then the missiles stopped. Mid-air. Frozen. As if time itself had paused. No explosion. No impact. They just stopped. And then, slowly, they fell. Back to Earth. Useless. The message was clear. Human weapons meant nothing. Silence returned again. Heavy. Deep. Uncomfortable. Hours passed. Then the ships began to move. Not fast. Not aggressive. Just slow, controlled movement across the sky. They spread out, covering different parts of the planet. Positioning themselves. Like they were preparing for something bigger. That's when the second phase began. Cities started to fail. Power grids collapsed without warning. Entire regions went dark. Not just electricity, everything stopped. Water systems. Hospitals. Transport. Communication. One by one, cities went quiet. No sound. No movement. It was not destruction. It was shutdown. Humanity was being turned off. People tried to escape, but there was nowhere to go. Cars stopped working. Planes could not fly. Even simple machines failed. The world was slowly being disabled. And still, no direct attack. No invasion. No soldiers. Just control. Deep underground, in secure facilities, scientists and military leaders watched everything. They began to see a pattern. The ships were not destroying Earth. They were studying it. Every shutdown followed a sequence. Every system failure was precise. Controlled. Measured. It was like they were testing humanity. Learning how everything worked. Learning how humans would react. One scientist finally said what no one wanted to hear. This is not war, not yet. They are preparing. That realization changed everything. Because if this was not the attack, then the real attack had not even started. In one location, something unexpected happened. A small military drone, old and not fully connected to global systems, stayed active. It was invisible to the alien control for a short time. Through that drone, humans saw something for the first time. One of the ships opened. Not with doors. Not with light. But with a shift in space itself. Inside, there was movement. Shapes. Alive. Watching back. For the first time, humanity saw the truth. They were not alone. And whatever was inside those ships was not here by accident. Moments later, the drone shut down. Gone like everything else. The last working eye of humanity had closed. And in that darkness, one final understanding spread. The aliens were not rushing. They were not afraid. They were not even fighting. They were deciding. Deciding how to end a species. And when they finally made that decision, there would be nothing left to stop them. For the first time in history, humanity was completely blind. No satellites. No global communication. No working systems. The world had been reduced to silence and fear. Cities were dark. Governments were cut off. People waited, not knowing what would happen next. But humanity was not finished. Deep beneath the surface of the Earth, far from the reach of the alien ships, there were places that had never been fully connected to the outside world. Hidden facilities. Old systems. Forgotten projects. And inside those places, humans were still watching. These systems were not advanced. They were not fast. But they were independent. Simple. And most importantly, invisible to the alien control. For the first time since the attack began, humanity had a chance to observe without being seen. What they discovered changed everything. The ships were not random. They were following patterns. Each movement had a purpose. Each shutdown had a sequence. Every action was calculated. The aliens were not just studying humans. They were predicting them. They were learning how humans think, how they react, how they fight. They were building a model. A perfect understanding of humanity. And once that model was complete, there would be no mistakes. No resistance. No survival. That was their plan. But they made one mistake. They believed humans were simple. Predictable. Easy to understand. They did not know one thing. Humans learn fast. Inside one of the hidden facilities, a small team of scientists and engineers worked non-stop. They gathered every piece of data they could find. Old recordings. Manual observations. Anything that had survived the shutdown. And slowly, they started to see the weaknesses. The alien systems were powerful, but not flexible. They followed rules. Strict rules. They reacted to patterns. And that meant one thing. They could be tricked. The team created something simple. Not a weapon. Not a machine. A signal. A false pattern. Something that looked like human activity, but was not real. They sent it out using an old transmitter, one that should not have worked. For a moment, nothing happened. Then one of the alien ships moved. It changed direction. Slowly. Directly toward the false signal. Inside the facility, no one spoke. They watched carefully. The ship reached the location. Paused. Scanned. And then did nothing. Because there was nothing there. The signal was fake. For the first time, the aliens had been misled. For the first time, they had made a mistake. And that was all humanity needed. Hope returned. Not strong. Not loud. But real. If the aliens could be confused, they could be challenged. The next step was more dangerous. The team decided to push further. Instead of just distracting the ships, they would try to isolate one. Using multiple false signals, they created a path. A trail that led one of the smaller ships away from the others. Slowly, carefully, the ship followed. Step by step. Until it was alone. Far from the rest. That's when humanity acted. Using an experimental weapon, something never tested in real combat, they launched a focused attack. Not powerful enough to destroy the ship. But enough to damage it. For the first time, an alien ship reacted. It moved suddenly. Unstable. Its surface flickered. And then. It fell. Not crashing. But descending. Out of control. Into a remote area, far from major cities. Silence followed. The team could not believe it. They had done the impossible. They had touched the enemy. For the first time, humanity had not just survived. It had fought back. But the most important moment came after. Because now, they had something even more valuable than a victory. They had access. To the ship. To the technology. To the enemy itself. And as one scientist looked at the screen, watching the fallen object in the distance, he said quietly. They came here to study us. He paused. Then continued. Now it's our turn. And in that moment, everything changed. Humanity was no longer waiting to be destroyed. Humanity was learning how to fight. The fallen ship did not look damaged. That was the first strange thing. From a distance, it appeared almost perfect. No fire. No broken parts. No visible crash marks. It rested on the ground like it had chosen to land. But everyone knew the truth. Something inside it had failed. And now, humanity had a chance. The location was secured within hours. Small teams moved in carefully, using equipment that did not rely on modern systems. Everything was manual. Slow. Controlled. No risks. No mistakes. Because no one knew what was inside. As they approached the ship, the air felt different. Heavy. Still. Almost like the space around it was being affected. The surface of the ship was smooth and dark, with no clear entrance. No doors. No windows. Just a silent wall. For a moment, no one moved. Then one engineer stepped forward and placed a small device against the surface. Nothing happened. Then suddenly, the surface reacted. It shifted. Not opening like a door, but changing shape. Like liquid metal moving aside. An entrance appeared. No sound. No light. Just darkness. The team looked at each other. And then they went inside. What they found was not what they expected. There were no control panels. No screens. No buttons. The inside of the ship was alive. Walls moved slowly, like breathing. Soft lights appeared and disappeared without pattern. The entire structure felt like a living system, not a machine. And at the center, there was something else. A shape. Tall. Still. Watching. It was not human. Its body was thin, almost fragile. Its skin had no color, shifting slightly as if it could not stay still. Its eyes were large, dark, and completely calm. It did not attack. It did not move. It simply observed them. The humans froze. Weapons were raised, but no one fired. Because something was wrong. The creature did not seem afraid. It did not seem aggressive. It seemed curious. One scientist slowly stepped forward. Careful. Slow. The creature's head tilted slightly, as if studying him. Then something impossible happened. The scientist heard a voice. Not with his ears. Inside his mind. Clear. Cold. Direct. You are not as simple as expected. The scientist stopped breathing. No one else reacted. They could not hear it. The voice was only for him. You learn, the voice continued. You adapt. There was a pause. Then. This changes the outcome. Suddenly, the creature moved. Fast. Too fast. The lights inside the ship shifted violently. The walls reacted. The entire structure began to pulse. The team stepped back, weapons ready. But it was too late. The ship was waking up. Outside, sensors detected energy spikes. The other alien ships in the sky began to move. For the first time, they were reacting. Not calmly. Not slowly. But urgently. Inside the ship, the scientist dropped to his knees, holding his head. The voice returned, louder now. You were not meant to survive. The lights turned red. The walls began to close. The ship was trying to protect itself. Or destroy everything inside. The team rushed out, barely escaping as the entrance sealed behind them. Moments later, the fallen ship lifted off the ground. Damaged, but not defeated. It rose into the sky and rejoined the others. But something had changed. The ships were no longer silent. They were no longer observing. They had made a decision. And humanity had forced it. Back in the hidden facility, the data from inside the ship was analyzed quickly. And what they found shocked everyone. The aliens were not just studying humans. They were running simulations. Millions of them. Different ways to destroy humanity. Different outcomes. Different strategies. And in almost every scenario, humans lost. But now, there was something new. A change. A small number of simulations showed something different. A possibility. Human victory. It was low. Very low. But it existed. For the first time, the aliens saw humans as a threat. And for the first time, humans realized something even more important. The enemy was not perfect. They could be surprised. They could be challenged. And maybe, they could be defeated. A new plan was created immediately. Not just to defend Earth. But to go further. To find where the aliens came from. To end the threat, completely. Because now, humanity understood the truth. This was not about survival anymore. This was about extinction. Theirs. Or ours. Humanity did not wait. There was no more time for fear, no more space for doubt. The moment they understood the truth, everything changed. This was not just an invasion. This was a test, and humanity had already failed too many times. Now, there was only one option left. End it. Using the data recovered from the alien ship, scientists worked without rest. The technology was strange, almost alive, but patterns were found. Systems were decoded. Slowly, piece by piece, humans began to understand how the ships moved through space. Not with speed. But with control. They were not traveling across distance. They were folding it. And once that was understood, everything became possible. A new kind of engine was built. Not perfect. Not safe. But functional. Humanity was about to leave Earth, not to explore, but to attack. The mission was simple. Find their home. Destroy it. Before they could finish what they started. A small fleet was prepared using modified alien technology. These ships were not as advanced, not as powerful, but they were enough. Enough for one strike. Enough for one chance. Before leaving, there was silence across the world. No speeches. No celebrations. Everyone knew what was at stake. If this failed, there would be no second chance. The fleet activated the new engines. And in a moment that no human could fully understand. They were gone. Space did not stretch. It folded. Stars disappeared. And then, they arrived. The alien homeworld. It was massive. Covered in structures that reached into the sky. The surface moved with energy. Ships of every size filled the space around it. This was not just a planet. It was a system. Alive. Powerful. Prepared. For a moment, no one spoke. Because now they saw the truth. This species was far beyond humanity. Stronger. Smarter. Older. And yet, they had still made one mistake. They underestimated humans. The fleet moved into position. Hidden. Silent. There was no time to study. No time to think. Only time to act. The weapon was prepared. It was not like anything humanity had ever created before. It did not explode. It did not burn. It erased. A controlled collapse of matter. A chain reaction that could not be stopped once it began. But it had a cost. Once activated, there was no escape. The fleet would not return. The decision was already made. No one hesitated. The command was given. Activation started. At first, nothing happened. Then, the planet reacted. Energy spikes appeared across its surface. Ships began to move. Systems activated. They had detected something. But it was too late. The reaction had already begun. A small point of darkness formed above the planet. Not light. Not shadow. Something else. Something that should not exist. It grew. Slowly. Then faster. The surface of the planet started to break apart. Not with fire, but with silence. Entire structures vanished without sound. Ships disappeared as if they were never there. Panic spread across the alien systems. For the first time, they were not in control. The darkness expanded, consuming everything. Cities. Oceans. Atmosphere. All gone. Within minutes, the entire planet was collapsing into nothing. No explosion. No debris. No remains. Just absence. The fleet watched until the end. Until there was nothing left. Then their systems began to fail. The reaction was spreading. There was no way back. No escape. One by one, the human ships went dark. But before the final signal ended, one message was sent. Broadcast across space. Clear. Simple. Final. If you attack humanity. There was a pause. Then the last words followed. There will be nothing left of you. And then, silence. Back on Earth, the alien ships in the sky stopped. Completely. No movement. No signals. Nothing. Then, slowly. They disappeared. Gone. As if they had never been there. Humanity had survived. But not because it was the strongest. Not because it was the most advanced. But because it was willing to do something no other species would. Total destruction. No warning. No mercy. No second chances. And from that day forward, one truth spread across the universe. Humans were not the most powerful species. But they were the most dangerous.